And then the next night we got to Detroit. That's where Connie lived.
Did you see her?
That we stayed with them. Yeah. By this time we were married 3 weeks. You know, we'd been married 3 weeks by this time.
So, did she know? Yeah, she knew it. She went to school with Dad.
Oh yeah, she knew him. Yeah. But we had the best time at that house, and I think that's where we got robbed. Our car. We bought. Let's see. No, we didn't go to Miami that year. The next year, we went to Florida the next year then too, and we went to Miami and Key West the next year. But that year we didn't. But they lived in an apartment called Tree, some kind of tree. I asked her the other day what that was, and she told me, but I can't remember now. And we had bought some gifts, a few gifts to bring home, you know, the people. And our car, and we had our camera in the car, and we got the camera stolen, and all of our gifts that we bought, all of our gifts. And I guess all of our clothes were either in the trunk or in Connie's, so we didn't get any clothes stolen. But they broke in the flight window, you know, that had the flight, and they broke that and reached in and unlocked the car. I mean, that's how they got in. They broke the window, and that was heartbreaking. That was really heartbreaking. But we had a good time at their house. Then we started on.
Was it Connie and
Tom?
And Tom's.
And they had Tommy. They didn't have Bonnie at the time. Tommy. And of course, she had him before Tom got home from the service. She had him in Hiawatha here. She lived here for a while. But anyway, we had a good time. By the time we got home, I remember we stayed at Decatur, Illinois, coming home. And we stayed, I can almost remember every place we stayed, but I, can't. From Florida on, I couldn't quite remember. And we talked about going to New York, but I was afraid. I thought, oh, that's such a big place. And I was getting a little bit homesick. We were both getting kind of anxious to get home, even though we were going to go to Tom's, but that was okay. But anyway, we missed New York, and to this day, we've never been in New York. To this day, that's one state we never got to. All the Northeast states we never did get to. We never were in Washington either. We traveled all the United States, but we never did go to Washington, D.C., Boston, New York, or any of those places. That's something. We always intended we were going to, but we never did do it. So.
So after this was 1926? 23. 40, I know, 40. 1946, right?
Yeah.
43, 46.
46.
And you took a month-long honeymoon, and when you came home,
the house was all ready for us to move in.
All new furniture in a house.
We bought it all before we left. Before we got married, we went to the furniture store and bought new furniture. Now the people that lived there sold us some of their furniture, well, that was kind of during the war, and you couldn't buy stoves and refrigerators, so we didn't have a refrigerator to start out with. And we bought the stove that the people owned, we bought the house from. They had an old Gibson stove, electric stove, so we bought that, and we bought an end table, and we bought some pictures. And we didn't buy furniture for one bedroom. We had 2-bedroom house.
And this is the house here on 6th Street.
Yeah, but we didn't furnish one bedroom. We just furnished that one bedroom, and we bought a new divan, and a chair went with it, and then we bought another chair. And we didn't buy a dining room set because the people next door, Slax's, had one, and they weren't going to use it. They didn't need it or something. They said, well, you can use it. So we used their dining room set for about a year or two before we bought this. Before we bought these.
Before you bought what?
These corner cupboards.
Oh, the corner
And
cupboards.
a table, I sold the table that went with them and the chairs, but we bought these 2 corner cupboards and a table and chairs, 4 chairs. Oh, I still have the chairs. I still have the chairs, they're in the bedrooms. I just sold the table. So, we bought all new and put them in the, and we bought 2 rugs, 2 new rugs, one for the living, we didn't carpet wall to wall. We bought a wine color one for the living room and a blue one for the dining room. And
So he was pretty well off to afford
he must have. He was.
a month-long honeymoon,
right.
and then
He
furnish the
really
house.
was.
And did you buy the house? Did you own the house?
Yeah, bought the house.
So bought the house. Did his parents do this, or he did this?
He did it all. He did it all.
And 23
And
years
that's
old.
that's not all. He paid for him. Didn't borrow any money. I mean, no. He paid for him.
Paid cash for
He
it.
paid cash. We never had a payment. Never had a house payment.
On any of the furniture or anything?
And he paid $6,500 for the house. And the next house we bought was $12,500.
And that
The
was
big
one
house
on the corner.
on the corner. That was $12,500, and we paid $6,500 for that little house.
So how long did you live in this little house?
7 years.
7 years.
To
So that's where all the
almost to the day. I think we moved on our anniversary, the 20th of January. I think.
So all 3 girls were born there. So how long were you married before you had Mary Beth?
Year and a half. We were married in January, and she was born in August the next year. 47.
So did you plan a family at all? Did you
Not
plan
really.
on how many kids you have? Or
No, we always wanted kids, but we didn't really plan one. No, we wouldn't have had them that close together. Jean was 15 months later, and Kay was 17 months later. So from May until August, like when Kay gets to be 50, they're going to be 50, 51, and 52. And then Mary Beth will be 53 in August. But that May, June, July, and August, they're consecutive years. That's how close they are. And they were dressed alike. We dressed them alike an awful lot.
and you made their dresses.
I made a lot of their dresses. I didn't make them all, but I made coats. I made their coats, lined little coats.
So when they were little, did you go to church every Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
And you went to the Methodist church, is that right?
Mm-hmm. The old Methodist church.
What is Zion Church? What?
That was where we got married. Out
What
there in
denomination is that?
Methodist. He was a Methodist, and I was a Methodist. We were both Methodists, so. They'd always been
Did
there.
they go to church, the Redmonds?
Mm-hmm. They went to church too. They weren't quite as active as my parents were. But we went to church. And then we started the little girls in church right away. They started the Sunday
But they
school.
were, the Redmonds drank, didn't they? I mean, it was okay
Uh,
for Grandpa.
They did a little bit
grandmother.
later. She wasn't too much. A little bit later in life they did that. They didn't write when we were first
But
married.
your folks never ever
Oh,
did?
no.
Ever?
Never.
Their whole life?
Never.
But they knew you did.
Well, I'm sure they did.
But you said you didn't drink in front of, you were talking about at the Derrick reunion, when
Yeah,
the
no,
old
we,
aunts.
oh, no.
Aunt
Oh,
Derrick's
no.
would come over, you
Oh, no.
tried to
Oh,
do
no.
this.
Never. No, we didn't drink in front of it, and we still don't. We
Still don't, they're all dead.
Well, I know, but like, for instance, that Kelliker reunion, or that Derrick reunion we had the other night, nobody drank there. We could have gone to the
Oh.
Pony and had drinks, and a lot of families do. Of the Henry family, Albert Henrys or Ward Henrys and their families, they did, but we didn't. We didn't encourage that.
Okay, so you bought the house on the corner and moved there when the girls were still little. And all this time Dad worked at the hotel?
Oh, no, he owned trucks. He owned trucks, and he worked with his dad at the elevator. He worked at the elevator a lot, but then he ran grain trucks, and he bought and sold grain. He done that with Hart Bartlett. That was
So he didn't have anything to do with the hotel at that time.
no.
But they had the hotel.
They didn't buy that till the 1949.
49.
Yeah. And then he did. Then he started, but they still had the elevator, and then they finally sold it. But he had grain trucks for a long time, and he bought grain, and he'd buy grain right from the fields, like wheat and corn, up in South and North Dakota, and haul it down to Kansas City. He had big trailer trucks, grain trucks, and he'd lease some, but he owned some too. He never did drive them, but he did that. In the first year we were married, in the fall, we went up to Yankton, South Dakota. We just lived out of a hotel, and he went out in the country and bought grain right from the farmers. And then they would shell it and take these, and he'd dispatch his trucks to go out on the farms and load them up, and then he'd bring them in and sell them to an elevator right there in Sioux City. Or he'd make these arrangements, say. As he bought and sold right then and there. He was an operator. Really an operator. He really was. Knew how to do it. Then that summer, the summer that Mary Beth was born, he went out in western Kansas, and he did the same thing with wheat. Went out in the farms and bought wheat right from the farmer. And I'm sure you've seen pictures of them in the movies. And Gene was driving a truck then. And he thought his brother was the meanest brother in the world. He made him work hard. Gene had to scoop that wheat, you know. And then Dad would sell it to the elevators out there. He bought from the farmers and brought them right into the elevators and dumped them. And he'd go out, and he spent the whole summer out there. And I stayed here at home. I was getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was the hottest summer in the world. Wow. So that was the first summer we met. The year before, in the fall, in the fall he did corn, and it was up there.
So you never worked while the girls were little?
Never. Up at Fremont, I worked a little bit at a department store, and I worked in the ladies' ready to wear.
And the girls were in school?
Mm-hmm. They were in school.
So, okay, you moved to Fremont because Dad got offered, he thought this was some great job.
Well, he was still working with trucks, see, and he had his own trucks, and he had refrigerated trucks, and he would buy, or maybe he wouldn't buy, I don't think he would, I'm not sure what he did, butter and eggs at Everest, or at Whiting. There'd be big egg or butter places, and he'd buy them and haul them to California, and they'd sell them out there. Then he'd buy meat, or he'd buy fruits and vegetables. No, he'd take meat out. Fruits and vegetables out in Yuma, Arizona, or Flagstaff, Arizona, or Bakersfield, California, different places where they had lettuce, onions, a lot of carrots, and he would haul that back to Kansas City, to the markets, to Pashota. He sold to Pashota and to a lot of those big vegetable markets.
This is what he did in Fremont?
No, that's what he did here in Hiawatha.
So he kind of got misled by somebody, is that right? He thought he was going to get this big job.
No, that's not right at all. And he owned these trucks. And they were a lot of money. They were a lot of money, like $30,000, you know. And that was a lot of money. Well, he had to get those paid for. Well, okay, he was running these trucks. Well, Little Audrey's was a bigger truck company, and they were his competition. And they were kind of stepping in and getting, you know, Dad was too small to make it as good as he'd like. So he got to know Mr. Drum, and Mr. Drum offered him a job as a dispatcher to do this. So he dispatched right here in Hiawatha. He had his own office, And he dispatched from this office, and he had a teletype, and he could teletype back and forth to the offices in every place. He teletyped every place. And Little Audrey's bought that teletype for him, and he had it. Well, then
Oh, like email today.
yeah, right. So then Drum decided, Mr. Drum thought he better come to Fremont, and be at the headquarters. So, and then, which was okay, Dad thought that was okay. And he liked that. He liked Little Audrey's, and he liked the trucking business. He was okay. He gets up there, there were too many big bosses over him, and Dad did not like that. He didn't see, he was his own boss here. He was doing his thing, and he was everything. But up there were two people over him, and he had to answer to those people. And he got really pissed. He really did. He wasn't misled. He just didn't realize how he'd always worked for himself. And then when he gets there, he had to go answer to other people, and he didn't agree with what they did, and did. And so that's why we were only there a year and a half, because he just could not take that. It was bickering in the office. He didn't like that. He just didn't like it. It made him stressed out, and he just, I can do better than this. And then that's when he got in the hotel, really.
So he came back to Hiawatha.
Mm-hmm.
And you always owned that house on the corner.
Uh-huh. We rented
it out, or what? You rented it out?
Rented it. But the administrator of the hospital rented it.
So how did it just, when you came back, you moved in?
Yeah,
back
we just had to tell him to move. We were moving back. They had to get another place. We gave him time to find a place. So then we moved back. And we stayed there for another, it was only about 3 years, till we built this house.
Okay.
We came back in, first is 60, and we built this house in 63. And we moved in, so we only lived there. But we lived there 7 years in the little house, 7 years there, and then went to Fremont, and we lived there 2 or 3 more years, and then here we've lived here ever since. So we've only lived 1, 2, 3, 4 houses since we've been married. That's pretty good. We only lived in one house up there. We had a big house up there. We had a big kitchen, bathroom downstairs, and a utility room. And
So, why did you decide to build a house?
Well, we'd always wanted to build a house. We always thought we'd build a house. We found this lot out here. We always liked this area out here. We liked this area, and we drove out here lots and lots of times. And there was a farmhouse here, and
Where?
barn here, right here. There
On
was
this lot?
Mm-hmm. Well, here, and they owned the pasture clear down there, and then they had pasture clear up here where Spaldings lived, and where Hinton's lived. Probably Hinton. The next two houses, they owned that too. And actually, the house sat up there, and the barn sat here, where we live. About where our garden is was the barn.
Okay.
And then the house was up there. And so then the house burned. Who's back there? Oh, Tony is. The house burned up here, and then Ed Spalding bought these 2 lots. Well, he bought all of it. Ed Spalding.
Ed Spalding.
Mm-hmm. And Ed built his house up here, right next door.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Duckett was with him too. And Dr. Duckett was going to build where Hinton's live, but he never got around to build. Instead, he built this Salisbury house, and they liked that, so they didn't build. Then we decided, we came out and talked to Ed to see if he would be interested in selling, and he sold the whole thing.
What was Ed going to do with it?
Probably develop it, try to. He was
Okay, so, and you designed this house, you made the
drew
floor plans.
everything of it, and then we had the architect or the blueprinter. It was Reynolds, Bob Reynolds, do it to specs. Then I couldn't draw it to specs, but he then finished it. He drew it for specs. Then I drew it all. We wanted it, and then he drew it for specs, so they could bid on it and have different contractors bid. So the way we built it then, we ended up was having everything contracted. We had the, Dad contracted the electric man. Dad contracted with the plumber. Dad contracted with the builder, which was Spalding. Ben Spalding? Yeah, Ben Spalding. And then he contracted the plumbing done by Stride and electricity by Raymond Myers. You know, that's how I did it. He oversaw it all. Well, actually, Ben Spalding oversaw it, but you know.
So you moved in here in '63 in November?
Yep. You dug the first hole.
Some pictures.
Yeah. So I've been here ever since.
So
Wouldn't have changed much. If I'm doing it now, I'd have the laundry room upstairs, but it's kind of hard on me to go up and downstairs now. But that's the only thing I thought I'd do different.
You could put that in one of these bedrooms.
I could, and I could also put it out there in the garage. I could, now I could. It might not make the resale of the house very good because most people went to a double garage. I might have to do away with one parking, you see. But, oh well, I'm not going to do it right now. But I may have to in order just so I